The first time I stepped onto her staircase, it groaned like it had been carrying secrets for years. One wrong step, and the old wooden railing shifted beneath my hand. I caught myself before falling, but my heart didn't settle. I wasn't standing inside just another beautiful vacation lodge in the mountains. I was standing inside a place someone loved enough to preserve, yet somehow couldn't save alone. She watched me from the doorway without saying much. Expensive boots. Designer jacket. A quiet confidence that comes from building a successful life. Everything about her suggested wealth. Everything except her eyes. Those carried the same exhaustion I'd seen in people who'd lost something money could never replace. "I'm not looking for the cheapest carpenter," she finally said. I nodded. "I'm looking for someone who'll care." Those 6 words stayed with me long after I unloaded my toolbox. Because caring had cost me almost everything. My name is Ben Carter, and for 23 years I repaired furniture, restored old homes, and built custom woodwork throughout northern Colorado. My father taught me that every board has a story and every nail deserves respect. He used to say that a person who rushes through craftsmanship eventually rushes through life. I believed him. Unfortunately, belief doesn't always pay the bills. The previous winter had nearly destroyed my small business. Construction projects slowed. Wealthy clients postponed renovations. Several contractors still owed me thousands of dollars they promised to pay next month. Next month never came. Eventually I had to sell most of my professional equipment just to cover rent on the tiny garage apartment where I lived. My dream workshop disappeared piece by piece. The planer went first. Then the cabinet saw. Then my dust collection system. Watching strangers drive away with the tools I'd spent years buying felt like losing members of my own family. By spring, all I had left fit inside the back of my aging pickup truck. Still, I kept working. Because wood doesn't care how much money you have. It only responds to patient hands. One Thursday afternoon I received a call from an estate manager. The owner of Aspen Ridge Retreat needs someone to inspect a staircase. I can come tomorrow. There are larger companies available. I'm sure there are. But she specifically asked for independent craftsmen. That surprised me. Most luxury property owners preferred companies with polished uniforms and large crews. When I arrived the following morning, Aspen Ridge Retreat looked like something from a magazine. Towering pine trees surrounded handcrafted cabins overlooking a peaceful lake. Everything appeared perfect. Until I entered the main lodge. The staircase was beautiful. Hand-carved oak. Original craftsmanship dating back nearly 70 years. But decades of moisture and heavy use had weakened the support beams underneath. Most contractors would have recommended tearing it out completely. Cheaper. Faster. More profitable. I spent nearly an hour underneath the stairs with a flashlight, examining every joint. When I climbed back up, the owner was waiting. "My manager says replacement is the only option." "It isn't." She looked surprised. "No? The staircase can be saved. It'll take longer." "Yes." "It'll cost you more labor." "Yes." "So why recommend it?" I gently ran my hand across the worn banister. "Because someone built this with pride. I think they deserve to have their work respected." For the first time, she smiled. "My name's Claire." "Ben." She extended her hand. It wasn't the beginning of a business deal. It felt more like the beginning of trust. Over the next 3 weeks, I worked mostly alone. Instead of replacing old timber, I reinforced hidden supports. Instead of covering damaged sections, I carefully restored them. Visitors barely noticed the repairs. That was exactly the point. The staircase looked unchanged. Only stronger. Every afternoon Claire brought coffee. Not because she had to. Because she enjoyed talking. I learned she'd inherited the retreat from her grandparents. Her grandfather built much of it himself after returning home from military service. He believed buildings carry memories, she said one evening. My father believed the same thing. She laughed softly. Maybe that's why I hired you. During lunch breaks I noticed something else. Several young maintenance workers gathered around while I worked. They asked questions. How do you match old wood grain? Why use traditional joinery instead of metal brackets? What's the difference between oak and ash? Most people found carpentry boring. These kids were fascinated. So I started teaching them. Nothing formal. Just little lessons while I worked. By the end of each day they practiced sanding scraps, measuring correctly, and cutting simple joints. Watching their excitement reminded me why I'd fallen in love with woodworking as a teenager. One afternoon a young employee named Tyler admitted something. I was going to quit. Really? I didn't think I was good at anything. He held up a small wooden box we'd built together. My mom cried when I gave her this. His voice cracked. No one's ever been proud of something I made before. That stayed with me. Sometimes people don't need miracles. They need someone to believe they're capable. On my final day I applied the last coat of finish. The staircase glowed warmly beneath the afternoon sunlight. Claire slowly climbed each step. No creaks. No movement. Just solid craftsmanship. When she reached the top, she rested her hand on the railing for a long moment. My grandfather would have loved this. Thank you. Hearing those words meant more than the payment. After packing my truck, I prepared to leave. Claire stopped me. Can you stay for dinner? I don't want to impose. You won't. The lodge staff gathered around one long table. The cooks. Housekeepers. Groundskeepers. Maintenance crew. Everyone laughed like family. After dessert, Claire stood. I want everyone to know why our staircase still exists. She looked toward me. Ben reminded me that preserving something valuable takes more patience than replacing it. The room applauded. I felt embarrassed. I wasn't used to attention. Then Claire continued. There's something else. She reached into a folder beside her chair. My grandfather built a woodworking shop behind Cabin 7. I remembered seeing the small building. Its windows were covered with dust. It hasn't been used in 12 years. She handed me a key. I'd like you to have it. The room fell silent. I stared at the key without moving. I'm sorry. I want you to run it. I can't afford to rent it. I didn't mention rent. I looked at her in confusion. Why? Because places like this don't survive because of wealthy owners. They survive because of people who care. My throat tightened. I don't understand. I've watched you these past weeks. You stayed late without charging extra. You repaired things nobody would have noticed. You taught employees during your lunch breaks. You fixed broken chairs that weren't even included in the contract. She smiled gently. You've already been treating this place like your own. I couldn't speak. She continued. My grandfather always dreamed of opening a community workshop where young people could learn real craftsmanship. I've never known who should continue that dream. Now I do. Tears filled my eyes before I could stop them. I sold my workshop. I know. You mentioned it once while talking to Tyler. I couldn't stop thinking about it. The following Saturday we unlocked the old building together. Dust covered everything. Old benches. Cabinets. Hand tools hanging on the walls. In one corner stood a heavy cabinet saw covered by a faded canvas sheet. Claire smiled. My grandfather believed in buying quality. The machine looked almost new. Hidden storage rooms contained clamps, chisels, planes, carving tools, and lumber that had been carefully stored for years. It felt like opening a time capsule. News spread quickly through town. Within weeks, local teenagers signed up for free Saturday woodworking classes. Retired craftsmen volunteered to help. Parents donated supplies. Neighbors brought reclaimed lumber. Tyler became my first assistant instructor. The shy young man who once planned to quit his job now confidently showed children how to safely use measuring tools. Watching him teach was one of the proudest moments of my life. One afternoon, an elderly man arrived carrying an old rocking chair. It belonged to my wife. It broke after she passed away. I heard you teach people how to fix things. Instead of repairing it myself, I invited 3 students to help. Together we restored the chair. When the man sat in it again, he quietly wiped away tears. My wife would have loved seeing young people learn this. Moments like that became common. A little girl built a birdhouse with her grandfather. A military veteran discovered woodworking eased his anxiety. A recently unemployed father built Christmas presents instead of buying them. The workshop became more than a building. It became a place where people rebuilt pieces of themselves. Nearly a year later, the town hosted its annual community festival. Claire insisted the workshop display student projects. Tables overflowed with handmade cutting boards, rocking horses, shelves, jewelry boxes, and carved signs. Visitors couldn't believe beginners had created them. During the closing ceremony, the mayor called us onto the stage. He presented the workshop with a Community Legacy Award. As applause filled the park, I looked toward Claire. She simply smiled. Later that evening, we sat quietly on the restored staircase overlooking the lake. "You know," I said, "I thought I came here to fix these stairs." She laughed softly. "No. You came here because something else needed rebuilding." I looked toward the workshop glowing warmly across the property. Children's laughter drifted through the open windows. Tyler was inside helping 2 brothers finish their first bookshelf. The sound of sanding mixed with happy conversation. For the first time in years, I wasn't thinking about everything I'd lost. I was thinking about everything we'd built together. Claire leaned against the railing. "My grandfather used to say kindness is like good craftsmanship." "How so?" "If it's done well, people may never notice the work itself. They only notice that everything feels stronger because someone cared." I ran my hand across the smooth oak railing one last time. The staircase was solid now. Not because I'd replaced it. Because I'd believed it was worth saving. Maybe people are the same. Sometimes they don't need someone to replace their dreams with easier ones. Sometimes they simply need one person willing to reinforce what's already inside them until they can stand strong again. I arrived at that luxury retreat carrying the last tools I had left. I drove away with something no paycheck could ever buy. A place to build. A place to teach. A place to belong. And every time another young person unlocks the workshop door, picks up a piece of rough wood, and discovers what patient hands can create, I'm reminded that the greatest gifts are almost never earned through success. They're given by people who recognize kindness, choose to trust it, and believe that when you help someone rebuild their future, the whole community becomes stronger.